Welcome to Emerging Franchise Brands, the podcast that introduces you to the visionary founders of America's fastest growing franchise opportunities. We'll also hear from industry pros as they share what it really takes to achieve the elusive milestone of 100 plus locations. I am your host, Frank Fiume, founder of I9 Sports, and my 20-year journey from inception to acquisition has given me a unique perspective on how to succeed in franchising. Join me as we welcome today's guest. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Emerging Franchise Brands podcast. On today's show, I have the founder and CEO of the National Academy of Athletics, Aaron Locks. Aaron, how are you today?
If life was any better, it would be illegal. I'm doing great. Thanks.
Aaron, it's great to see you again, man. It's been a while since we got together.
It's been a minute, but I'll tell you what, I've been excited. It's been on my calendar, so I'm really excited to share time with you.
Well, look, when we first met, it was at Springboard in Philly a year and a half ago. You guys were just starting out in franchising, and I was obviously super excited to hear, fellow youth sports enthusiast and doing it for all the right reasons, I think. And so I'd love for you to share with the audience to start out, what exactly is the National Academy of Athletics?
So the National Academy of Athletics is, in a nutshell, we partner with recreation departments. We partner with schools, with youth leagues, anything possible to help bring recreational sports programs back to the communities. So we work with, now tons, thank goodness, helping kids fall in love with playing sports.
Sweet. So one of the things, if I could share with the audience, there's a ton of youth sports franchises out there, as we all know.
Yeah.
One of the things that you guys do that's really different from the other brands is that what you said earlier, you partner with Parks and Rec departments. There are a lot of youth sports franchises out there that in some cases they do partner, but in many cases they do go head to head. I know obviously in my past life, we opened up fields, rented space, and in many cases we did compete head to head with Parks and Rec programs, but you guys have mastered the public-private partnership, which is rare.
Yeah. Growing up, I had my old company, University of Sports, for 20 years, and we were stuck in a building, and I didn't want to be stuck in a building. And what I saw was a major need in 2012, 2013 in the recreation space, because kids need this stuff.
Right.
And the recreation departments and the schools have the opportunity with these facilities, but how do you drive those together? And I've always been a win-win-win guy, So if the city wins and the kids and the families win, then we can win, and that's what makes it sustainable. So literally, we don't rent stuff. Everything we do is in partnership with the schools and the leagues and the municipalities, and I think that's what's helped them to grow. And we feel like we're a part, like we're not a vendor, we're a community partner, and it really makes a big difference.
Well, okay, so you founded the company, let's see, 2012. Tell me, what was life like before? What were you exactly doing before this?
Yeah. So I started, actually, I don't know if you can see behind me, but I worked for one of the most famous coaches in the world, John Wooden, was my first job.
Wow.
And my first camp I ran, but nothing wrong with Coach Wooden, right?
Absolutely.
And I learned more about life from Coach Wooden, which is the foundation of everything we do in the National Academy of Athletics, is based on what I learned from him in 1983. My first camp I ever ran with a guy named Magic Johnson, which people may know. And then the Lakers and the Warriors and the Giants and the Niners, and just spent a lot of time. And University of Sports, my old company, is what I was doing. And I've always been in the space. In fact, I tell everybody I've never really had a day job. I've worked in the youth sports space since 1983 and never left.
Wow, that is amazing. You've rubbed elbows with some of the most famous athletes in the world, and I mean, come on, to have any sort of involvement with Coach Wooden. I mean, talk about one of the greatest inspirations of anybody, let alone in sports. What was it like? How did Coach Wooden change your life?
Well, let me tell you a story that'll kind of guide you down the path. So I'm his driver and demonstrator. So I pick him up and he gets in the car. This is Coach Wooden. This is the most famous. I mean, he's close to the Pope in many people's eyes, right?
What year is this, by the way?
Just 1983. 1983.
All
Okay.
right.
I was a young guy, doing my thing. So I get in the car and he buckles up and he sits next to me and we're driving and we're going down to run a clinic. Now we are on the 405 in LA area coming through, and I'm realizing I'm driving Coach Wooden. I can't be the guy that gets in a car accident or God forbid kills. So I'm
Right.
going about 45 in the slow lane as we're driving down. And Coach looks at me and we're having a conversation. He finally puts his hand on my knee and goes, "Hey, Aaron, I'm old, but I'm not quite that fragile. We do have to get there." So I think I spent up to 55. But really, Coach, if you're out there and you don't know the pyramid of success is massive. So, real quick, his pyramid of success is the peace of mind of knowing you've done your very best. That's success every day. And I live that every single day. But the key, which is what is the foundation of what we do, is the cornerstones of his pyramid is industriousness and enthusiasm. You got to work hard. You got to love what you do. Frank, you do it every day on your show. I've seen it. I get it, right? Well,
Mhm.
for us, industrious and enthusiasm, if you work hard but you don't love what you do, you're not going to really want to keep doing it, right? And if
Right.
you love what you do, but you're not working hard, you're not going to get anywhere.
True.
Only when you have both does it create sustainable success. For us, we took industrious enthusiasm to our motto, which is play hard, have fun. And that's the big premise for the National Can of Athletics.
Wow. Wow. All right. So talk about the launch of this company. You evidently, wanted this partnership with the Parks and Recs. That was the whole foundation of this. Why that angle?
Yeah. So when I left the space at University of Sports, I was tied to a facility. Now, originally we were the first indoor sports complexes, indoor soccer, we were going to roll them out nationwide, but
Mhm.
36,000 a month rent kind of gets sticky, and there was such a need in other cities, even though I had this facility, but I couldn't bring kids from 10, 15, 20 miles away into my facility. It wasn't working for parents, so I said, you know what? Let's bring the mountain to Moses, right? Let's go the other way around. So what we did was we started in a sense outsourcing. And then I met a bunch of recreation professionals. And if you're a rec professional out there, love you. You guys are the best because they're doing it for the right reason.
Right.
They are in service of the kids in the community. And Frank, what happened was when you and I were kids, we used to just play ball down the street and we had Parks and Rec, we had all these things an opportunity.
Yeah.
Well, now everything is so scheduled and programmed that what happened was it was choking the life out of sports for kids. So
Mhm.
I've gone out to now over 300 cities, and we're partnering with them to bring back. And here's the deal: pickleball for kids, flag football, soccer, whatever it is, to give kids lots of different opportunities to play. That's why we did it.
Wow. And so what are the most popular sports though that you guys are servicing?
It's funny because this summer we'll do about 30,000 kids, right? This summer, not a bad
Mm.
summer.
Not bad.
Pickleball's on the rise, man. Pickleball for
Really?
kids is unbelievable. And I think it's because people like me and you are going, hey, get into that because then we can play together. But, the mainstays is still basketball, flag football, soccer. Obviously, those are the big three. But I'll tell you what's really interesting. I was with Project Play in Berkeley, and we're talking about the importance of kids playing multiple sports. So
Mhm.
sports sampling is such a huge thing. So on my podcast and a lot of different channels we've been talking out there, and a lot of parents now are registering kids for the multi-sport or an R camp, the all sorts of sports camp, because now the kid's going to get to play and they're going to get to use their body as an all-terrain vehicle like we did when we were kids and
Right.
play soccer and flag football and basketball and baseball on the same day.
Right. This is I think this is so fascinating too because I hear this all the time with athletes that are folks that are pro athletes. Um, they understand the importance of multi-sport and
Right.
avoiding specialization. But
Yeah.
it's the amateur, it's the dad who thinks their kid is their 401k, their golden ticket to the retirement, all those horrible, horrible, comments we've all heard. They think that specializing their kid is going to make them better. They have it all wrong, don't they?
Yeah, Frank, here's the interesting thing to me. There's been a pivot, and it's not just the families.
Hmm.
The youth sports industry is a $73 billion industry. So what's
Mm,
happened is it's become big business. So private equity money has come in and they've
right.
said, let's drive the bus and let's bring it up. But to do that, to make kids feel and against, it's almost like the parents are being taught fear of failure.
Right.
So fear of loss. If your kid doesn't play soccer year round, they're not going to get to play whatever. Well, we both know it's the exact opposite because
Right.
look, I love steak. But if you made me eat steak 365 days a year, I'd become a vegan. I don't want to be a vegan. But so variety is the spice of life. It's the same with kids in sports.
Yeah. All right. So, Aaron, let's talk about when you started launching this company before franchising. Like,
Yeah.
talk about the early days. What was life like, and what were some of the challenges you had with getting this thing off the ground?
Yeah. You know, switching from a facility base
Hmm.
to going out, it was funny. I was very blessed. Some of the cities, they knew me. I've been around, it works out. But I would knock on doors and they would say, "Who the hell are you? What do you want from me?"
Right.
Right? And I'd
Right.
have to say, "No, no, no. It's okay. I'm here in service. By the way, name drop Coach Wood, name drop whatever." But part of it was really at first, there wasn't a lot of clarity on the concept of what I was trying to present
Hmm.
because they were protective. Like, what do you mean? We can do this. I said, I know you can, but
Right.
that was the biggest piece was explaining the model. Eh, After about a year and a half, 2 years having success, then they were like, thank God you're here. And now, I mean, I got stacks of business cards saying, come to our city, please.
Right. So there was a bit of control though that they had to really relinquish.
Yes. Yeah, and it's interesting because some of the youth sports that are out there, they want to mandate that they take the registration, right?
Uh,
Registration's a big thing with the privacy acts and whatnot. At the NASCAR Athletics, we said, look, you want to take the registration? Go ahead. We can take registration either way. We just want to make sure that it's done in a way that it's easy for families to register, obviously, and go
sure.
forward.
So, and I don't want to get too far into the weeds on the kids' sports thing because I know there's people out there who may be interested in buying a franchise, but I think this is
Yeah.
really important for them. If someone was going to buy a franchise and be a franchisee of your concept, they really need to understand how this whole dynamic works when you're partnering up with the Parks and Rec because there's huge opportunities out there.
Right.
Um, the idea of registration and who owns that customer is really critical, right? Because there's nothing more
Yes.
important than data. So when you're developing that relationship with the Parks and Rec, you said that you could do it either way. What are you seeing as the most common way of facilitating that relationship in your organization?
Yeah. There's so many privacy acts and there's a lot of data mining right now where
Hmm.
people are getting access to the families and they're trying to sell them cars and insurance and that. We
Right.
don't do any of that. Yeah, we're a one-stop shop. We're not going anywhere near that. That being said, the most common way is that the parks and recreation municipalities, the schools, the YMCA's, whoever, they collect the data. Now, we do need to have access because we do our mid-camp, our post emails and
Hmm.
contacts and follow-up as part of the deal. But we develop a relationship with those families individually. But the municipalities, to make them feel comfortable, they can control the data, they control the money. And Frank, it's an interesting model because if you rent, that means you collect the money and then you pay the city a rental fee,
Right.
right? What
Right.
we do is everything's on a percentage basis. So, as an example, the city might say it's $100 for the program. They collect the funds. They keep 25 cents on the dollar. They
Hmm.
give us 75 cents. And what we can provide is literally soup to nuts marketing, staff, curriculum, equipment. They just provide the facility. So it's a very similar model in terms of the product. But the
Uh-huh.
difference is I'm not a control freak. I might play a little one on TV once in a while, but through our systems, our internet, our training, all the development, that's what makes our product maybe unique.
Sure. Was there a pivotal moment, Aaron, when you knew you were really onto something big?
Well, I knew it a long time ago. I just didn't know what to do about it, right? Because when I was running camp, I mean, I can remember I ran a camp with George Carl at Harker Academy, and the experience was like I got chills thinking about it, and that was 1989, right? And I still think about it. I mean, I've done this so long, but in the National Cab Athletics, when we decided to franchise and we decided to pivot and lean, was because there was so much request and need for us to come to these locations and I couldn't multiply myself. So the pivotal thing that hit me was this. We got a great concept.
Mhm.
It's serving the community well and it's profitable not just for us, but the cities are making profit from it, which is good because they can serve the community and the people involved. So literally everybody wins. I don't know, Frank. I know in your prior life, but you think about what kind of business where we're literally win, 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 win.
Right.
Everybody wins.
Sure. No, that is rare.
That's what I mean.
The thing about, I mean, one of the greatest challenges in franchising in any concept is finding a location, and then you have to work out a lease agreement. And here, one of the benefits, obviously, of your business is that's already built in.
Yep.
You are just working with, having a partnership. Um, and I think for you, franchising was a brilliant way of expansion. There's no way you could have continued to open company-owned locations around the country. And I know it's part of your business, right? You've got 9 franchises that are open now, 7
Right.
company-owned. But realistically, how many corporate-owned locations do you think you could do?
I think the challenge with the corporate, and I did it through a partnership structure, which was interesting. So I saw the model. You know the name Stephen Covey?
Yes, of course.
Okay.
Yep.
So one day when I was working for Coach Riley, I'm name dropping, but it's kind of fun. So the coach needed a ride, so I got to go to a meeting and watch Stephen Covey and Pat Riley. Pat
Oh
Riley
my
was the coach of the
gosh.
Lakers at the time. Watch them chat, and I got to sit there, and I learned a lot during that conversation. Starting that in mind and all these other factors. But the interesting thing that kind of tied back in is I saw this and I went, okay, that was a lot of the stirring of the pot for me. 1985 of kind of the predecessor to what we're doing here, where it's
Mhm.
at, because there is if it's the right thing, the path, if you do the work, the path reveals itself,
Right.
right? If it's the right thing, the path reveals itself. And I've always found that to be the case. If you're trying to force that round peg in that square hole, you can do it probably, but man, is that sustainable? Is that joy? Is that the pyramid of success? It is.
Yeah, no, definitely not. So you started running these company locations for 12 years before you franchised. So you got plenty of experience, your systems and processes were clearly down. When was that kind of defining moment you decided we're going to franchise, which was really only what, 2 years ago?
Yeah, 2 years ago. I'm nuts. You know, I realized I love learning, so I'm always every day reading, watching podcasts, learning. And I started listening to people and they started saying, you know what, this is the way to go. So I invested a lot of money, a lot of time, a lot of
Mhm,
manpower, woman power, whatever you want to call it. And what we did was we leaned into it. We got it done in 13 months, which is kind of unheard of, right?
mhm.
But what we did was, I'm very blessed to have an amazing team around me. Laurie Mancour, Michael Stone, Kevin Lowry, the team that supports, and we're all on the same page, like-minded going forward, right? And what we did was we literally took the good stuff out of here
Mhm.
and we put it into an intranet system so that you as a franchisee, Frank, not only do you get to come out here and get the full training, but everything we do is now systemized on our intranet. So once I was able to do that and feel comfortable, and you know what's crazy? We got 6 franchises in 6 months, and I said, turn the faucet off. Who does that?
Nobody.
But I did it because I said, I cannot go out there and half-ass this thing. It's got to be really good,
Yeah.
right? So we shut down sales and we tested everything. I mean, we are pulling and testing and shipping and everything. And even we even pushed our system to see if it would fail.
Mhm.
And we did okay. And we made some adjustments. So basically February 1st, we opened the floodgates up and we got 3 more that have come in. And now we're going again.
Wow. Aaron, so there's so many emerging founders that are watching this podcast, and they probably know that they need to pause and get some stuff figured out. What was wrong at the time where you said, you know what, we need to do this better, and that you felt like we had to kind of just put the brakes on it? Because I think that's incredible, incredibly courageous of you to do that and to put your ego aside. I know you've known you for a while. You don't have an ego. You
Thank
always put the kids first. You put your people first, and so I think you can really inspire people with a decision like that. So what was it that had to stop?
you. Couple things. One is, boy, necessity becomes the mother of invention, right?
Uh-huh.
So to me, the necessity is I'm not a perfectionist because I don't want to allow perfection to get in the way of progress. But what I looked at and said, I can't. My team and I talked about it. We can't be average going forward. Because if we're just average, we're going to be another one of these others, and then someone else is going to slide in. And
Absolutely.
we have a lot of communities we go into, and I'm not. I look, there's so much youth sports out there. There's no way we can run out of kids, right? So
Uh-huh.
everybody, I hope every youth sports organization does it right with the kids at
Agree.
heart. I hope you're hugely successful, and that
Agree.
goes for everybody. But back to the point, if you're a founder and you build a foundation, two things happen. One, by the way, we bootstrap this ourselves. We are a debt-free company, and I'm very proud to
Awesome.
say that, right? Because it gives you a lot of freedom to right to make those
Uh-huh.
decisions. Okay, but the second part is that going through the process, I realized working with the team, saying, wait a second, in order for us to be massively successful, we have to be really solid so that if we take a hit somewhere, something happens, we have a strong foundation to be able to come back to it. So we made the decision, and it's a tough decision. It probably cost us, maybe $200,000 in top line revenue by
Uh-huh.
by pressing pause. And it was a little scary because it stops the momentum, and all of a sudden you're like, wait, we got to rebuild this thing again, right?
It's hard to get the rock moving again. For me, I remember there was a time during the Great Recession when franchise sales slowed down, which was almost like a self-fulfilling prophecy because we were finding that the people who were calling us to buy a franchise were truthfully they were not somebody who you should sell a franchise to. They were buying a business almost out of desperation, and they really weren't financially qualified, and they didn't want to. This is during the Great Recession. They didn't want to for work for the man again. They wanted their own business, and so we really slowed franchise sales down during the Great Recession, and then to try to accelerate franchise sales again. It was a struggle. So, but I commend you for again making the right decision. So when you got things going again, and obviously you're selling franchises. Where are these people coming from?
Yeah, it's crazy, and I don't want to knock it. So please, I hope everybody out there, I have decided to not uh to drink from the fire hose. I right now we're probably awarding one out of every seven or eight that come through the funnel. Okay. And what I've been told in the industry, if you're out there doing this, that it could be you need 100 leads to get one that potentially
Absolutely.
could, right?
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
it.
You're going to get 1 to 2 franchise sales out of 100 leads,
Right.
and that's if you're
So
doing it right.
if you're doing it right, yeah, I'm doing it right. Exactly. I've realized that I cannot have any of my franchisees fail. And that's not a promise to them other than I'm going to work shoulder to shoulder and support. But the promise is that I cannot let Frank become a franchisee unless I know that Frank's the right person with the right heart, that has the wherewithal, the work ethic, the right mindset, the right psychology, so that we can then, and by the way, the right territory, because we study the territory to make sure, is it viable? We do the whole deal and then
Yeah.
say, okay, you know what, Frank, now we can start that process. The good news, the
Uh-huh.
process takes maybe 90 days and you're fully ready to go. But you've been in it. This is the process. So for me, if I'm out there, one, select the right people
Uh,
because everyone, thank God, every one of our franchises is being successful. And if you had any one of our franchisees, they would get on the phone with you today. We could pick it up, call them, and they're excited. They want to talk. What's going on? We're having growth. The whole deal. That's why I want this thing because my goal is to get 100. I don't need a million in franchise. I just want 100 solid franchises nationwide within the next 5 years in
uh-huh.
service of those communities. I feel like we're going to have a major impact on kids' lives.
Awesome. Well, I know that's going to happen for sure. I don't doubt you for a second. Aaron, there's obviously different attributes that I think you and I both agree on why somebody is successful in operating a franchise, not even one of our franchises.
Yeah.
When I think of that, I think of do they have the hunger, and drive to succeed? And in your business, as in was in mine, they have to have the ability to not have a fear of rejection because obviously you didn't. You walk into Parks and Rec every day. You got rejected, I'm sure 99 out of 100 times. So we have to find people that don't fear rejection, people who have the hunger to succeed, they're purposeful. How do you measure somebody's hunger when they come into your office to making sure that you are picking the right person?
Right. There's a process that goes through. My chief of staff, Kevin, Kevin Lowry. By the way, which is great. I've known him since I was 10 years old when he coached me in baseball. So having someone, he's the guy that has the BS meter and the conversation and goes through it a little bit and gets to know people on a personal level. Before we even talk business, let's talk people. Right? Because I believe it is, I don't care what anybody says, it's about the people, right? And if you got good people, we can teach systems, but they got a good people. Then they go through that. Then the next step they go through is with Larry, and they dig in more about the systems as there's clarity and understanding. And then they can step in, then they come visit and go from there. But the key, I would say, if I'm a franchisee, no matter what it is, realize that if your systems are great and everything's good, you still have to have the people that match what it is that your tasks are. For us,
Right.
you can't say, hey, Frank, we need unicorns because that's the only way our business is going to work. Well, you're going to have a really hard time. So setting a system up that a good portion of people can actually function and be successful at was part of it. But to your point, they got to be a people person. They got to be willing to talk to people. They have to be an entrepreneurial mindset, creative, outside of the box thinker, all those little things. So we actually take them through a little test and quiz as we go through it and just kind of see, mostly for their protection. Because if you're going to invest 35, 40 grand, whatever your number is
Mhm.
to get into something, I can't set you up for failure. I got to set you up for success.
Sure. And we know that in order for them to be successful, it's not about just that they love sports. There's millions of people out there that love sports, and most of them should not own a business either. Right. So it's the business acumen. At least I came to find out that some of the mistakes I made early on was I brought franchisees on that loved sports, loved kids, great, but they didn't have the business acumen or willingness to recognize or accept that that is actually what was more important was the marketing, management, operations, finance, technology. Those are the things that, yeah, that's what we do every day. I don't know about you, but in my office, we didn't talk about touchdowns and home runs and score and goals. We talked about management, marketing, operations, finance, technology. That's what business is. Sports was just the vehicle that we use, and in doing so, we get to enrich kids' lives, improves families, and I think that's probably a key feature here in any successful franchise, but it's probably more so in our business because it's sports, and the blessing is that it's sports, so people know something about it, they love it, and the curse is that it's sports and they know something about it. Wouldn't you agree?
Yes, and it's funny because I've written 7 books on coaching youth sports, and I've got all these vehicles for them, but the bottom line is, it's still gonna be them. They've gotta deliver, right? So
Yes.
so if you're an introvert, don't go into a forward-facing franchise because it's not gonna work for you, right? You have
Right.
to be outgoing, you have to be willing to talk to people, and yet, the key that I really love what Kevin does, and he's hunting authenticity in the conversation, because you could fake it a little, you can kind of you whatever, but if you're not authentic, especially with the kids, they smell that and they go, I'm out. but
Right.
but in relationships with Parks and Recreation, these are government contracts we're getting, right? So
Mhm.
you have to be process oriented, you have to be these things, but if you're authentic and you have a real love of helping kids, we can teach the NASCAP athletics, my system, my talk, teach, play system, trademark. We can do that, but you got to have those cornerstones to start with, or you'd fail.
Yeah, and there's a huge benefit to the Parks and Rec system because we know that they're stretched. We know that they're well, we've been talking about budget cuts for Parks and Rec for as long as I've been, involved in amateur sports since the 90s. So I'm sure it was way before then, but that's always the first part of the budget to go. So, I mean, you're really bringing a real need to the community because let's face it, the Parks and Rec director, it makes them look better by partnering up and bringing in and elevating their brand by
Right.
having an organization like yours that comes in with the franchisee and it actually strengthens the Parks and Rec without any added cost to them.
It allows them to offer more to their community more consistently. When
Uh-huh.
when I met Greg from the city of Napa, in the wine country, not a bad place to hang out. And we tested it out a little bit and we dove in. But what was great is he's like, all right, prove it, and we went out there. And what he says is, you make me look good. Your job, Aaron, is to make me look good. And where we can go out, and now we're offering, instead of having the college player that we all know that lived in the community that's there for 3 years is great, but then he leaves. Now who's running that basketball program, right? With
Right.
us, we have the ability to deliver it consistently year after year, decade after decade. And the fact that I mean, think about this, Frank. If you're an operator, and by the way, if you're out there and you're a franchisee, um, think about your deliverables that you can do in such a way that's consistent. Because the challenge that I'm seeing, and no knock on, but some of our, I'll call them competitors, other in the space, what happens is they deliver once. Right. It's like coming in and we're going to undercut prices and this and that. I go, well, what are you going to do with that? Right. At some point, it's going to fail. So you have to have the wherewithal and the mindset to ride the wave. Right. I'll
Sure.
give an example right now. Times are tough. Times are a little bit uncertain. So in our case, we used to have people that would sign up and register for 6 camps in a row. They'd sign up early and boom, boom, boom. Right.
Mhm.
In the affluent areas, that's okay. Boom. Now what's going on is parents are waiting until Wednesday or Thursday before the weekend going, I need childcare. Where am I going to put my kid? So it's a different, and you have to be willing and able to process through that. As a franchisee, I have to calm the waters to everybody and help them
Right.
understand, right, as a franchisor and how it all works together. Yeah.
Sure. Well, welcome to the world of franchising because anybody that goes in as a founder of a franchise system, we quickly find out that it's all about the long game. This is not a get rich quick scheme to be a franchisor.
Right. I will say though, and you taught me, I remember sitting there, we had a little cubby for a few minutes, and I'm
Yeah.
so grateful. But those that don't know, you're one of the most generous and genuine people that have not only been successful, but you give back. And I love that
Oh,
because
thank you.
that's what makes it work. And I appreciate that. But we had the conversation, and being in the same space, I'm like, okay, tell me everything. And you gave me a couple points. I'm not going to share what they are because they're still kind of, to me, but they hit home with me. And when I brought them back with my team, the biggie was really about that, dude, make sure you got your act together. Really what you gave me. That you literally said, you can't, if you're a franchisor, you cannot fake it till you make it. That doesn't work in this space.
Yeah.
That being said, you also told me, which I thought was wonderful, and this one I will share, is that franchising is the way that more people will have the opportunity to step into the business ownership space than ever before. And I'm seeing it now because I watch all the stuff and the growth opportunity. If you're looking to get in business, and you can get in a business for $36,000, who can do that, right? Or
Absolutely.
your son or daughter just graduated from college and you want to help them out, boom, get them in a franchise. They just graduated a business degree. Bring them.
Uh-huh.
We want that kid, right? Yeah, we
Right.
want those. Yeah.
And also we know that there's great risk in starting a business from scratch, right? We heard we know the crazy numbers, 90+% of businesses that fail within 5 years. As being part of your franchise brand, you're actually part of a brand that's been around since 2012 because that's the systems and process you're getting. It's not a quote unquote new franchise. It's this concept has been long established. Aaron, what's the investment range to open one of your locations total?
36,000. We usually like them to have, maybe because they're marketing whatever, 40 grand, something like that, and they're
Okay.
ready to go, to get in. That includes equipment, startup, training, the whole deal. And I'm coming to your house, man. I'm coming, I'm knocking on the door. I'm personally going to go out and visit municipalities and make relationships. I love traveling and meeting rec people from all over. So I will personally come out on all our
Awesome.
new franchises at this point, and I go out there and spend a day and a half with them. In fact, I'll be going to Denver. In fact, that's the other state I forgot to mention. We just signed Denver a little bit ago. So Denver, Colorado. I'll be going out there and getting the programs going in there.
Congrats. You're gonna have to expand this team because you're not gonna be able to fly all over the country nonstop forever.
Yeah. Well, that's the good news. We've actually, I was just working on a 5 year. We're ready for 24, and then we're ready for the next expansion. But to your point, and if you're out there doing what I'm doing and you're out there hustling, make it happen, you have to, unfortunately, you have to build a foundation ahead, right?
Yeah.
You have to be ahead. So we've got where we're at. We can handle 24 is our number, and then
Okay.
we'll add going forward. That's how it works.
How big is the territory?
We do about it's about a 500,000 max people, but
Uh-huh.
the way that we break it out, it's based on not just rooftops, uh, the TAM, right? Looking at how many elementary schools. We look at the economics. So we break it all the way down. And thank goodness for the new platforms out there, and AI doesn't hurt either. But we pull it all together so it's deliverable. So that's about the size that we work with.
That's a very generous sized territory, but considering you're working with the Parks and Rec departments, you need enough public, public sector organizations, enough Parks and Recs out there to be able to grow this
Yeah,
thing,
if you
right?
think about it, the people that, and they're all being successful, thank you, to do it is maybe three schools and three parks and rec department relationships
Okay.
in the first 6 months, and you got a foundation that you can springboard off of. Some have, 6 cities and 36 schools right now,
Mhm.
and we've added some new programs, which is really exciting. We're actually going into the school day now, and we're actually providing, we're teaching physical education in schools because there's not enough PE teachers. Again, that's what I meant earlier, necessity, mother of invention. There's
Right.
we're finding out people don't want to become PE teachers anymore. So for about 70 cents on the dollar, we can come in with a student athlete or college student or whomever to use my system. And we actually teach physical education. And about 36, 37 schools, we're doing that currently, and it's growing.
Interesting. So, obviously, no longer just in the league business with Parks and Rec, but if you're going into the schools and you're going to actually deliver the PE, the service of PE,
Right.
what do you see as potentially kind of the breakout of the pie between the PE side of the business versus leagues?
Well, so we do camps, clinics, leagues, and then school programs, after school sports, et cetera, with the extended learning, and then the physical education. What I'm seeing is the physical education is climbing because there's a need. And each state has a little different requirements as going forward, but we're seeing people are really loving our curriculum, and so the numbers are climbing. We're picking up schools almost on a daily basis. The franchisee and the corporate are picking them up step by step. So I couldn't tell you the pie. It would be tough to kind of, because each territory is a little different. But I will tell you what really did pick up, especially in California, is the after school programming with the ELOP programs and whatnot. There's a lot of after school programming that's needed. And, there's some locations that are turning away 50, 60, 70 kids, and so we're trying to find those and step in and say, hey, by the way, you know, we can help. And it's worked out really well. And I love it when we're done with one of those things and the kids come home happy and tired. What's better than that, right?
Mission accomplished. um, Aaron, what's been maybe something that has surprised you in this process of franchising that you weren't expecting?
You know what I found? There's some really good people in franchising that want to help out.
Uh-huh.
Um, what I found out the hard way is that franchising, the startup of franchising, to get to not to get people in and sell a franchise or not, but to start a franchise a lot more expensive and time consuming than people realize. To make a model really powerful and strong and brand, it's a lot more expensive. A lot time, money, resources than I had thought. By the time you get your operating manual and you get your FDDs and you get your debt and all the other letters and then the state registrations and oh my gosh, I kind of have a team for a team that helps with that team to deal with the other team to deal with that stuff, right?
True, true. Aaron, you've had the privilege of being around obviously some of the most famous coaches and athletes, and we think about their legacy and what they've done and the lives they've impacted. What about you? What about Aaron's legacy? What do you hope to leave as a legacy with this brand?
That's a deep one, brother.
It is a deep one, man. Wouldn't it? This is no joke here.
Um, I live my life. So I had some major changes happen in 2011 in my life. 2012, which is when I pivoted and started this. I
Okay.
asked myself 4 questions at the end of every day to know if my time on planet Earth counts. I asked these at the sunset every day. In fact, I wrote a book called Sunrise to Sunsets, my quotes, right? Because about it. So number one is, what did I do today that was productive? Because if I'm productive each day, then I feel good about what I'm doing. Number two is, what did I do that I enjoy? Because life is supposed to be joyful. So I like to do that. Number three is, what did I do for my body, mind, spirit? Because health is important. right? And number four is what did I do for somebody else? Because Coach Wooden taught me you can't live a perfect day without doing something for somebody else. So I literally at sunset every day, I take a picture of the sunset. Sometimes I just point the camera west because there may not be a sunset. And I asked myself those four questions. It's changed my life. The reason why I say that, fast forwarding to the end, I want millions of kids to have a better life because here's the deal. There is no better life skill teaching tool than youth sports. You know it and I know it if it's
Yeah.
done right. My 7-year-old, my dad left when I was 3. My 7-year-old baseball coach, Marty Islas, 85 years old, lives not too far from me. I visit him once a month. We talk on the phone. We check in. I want that for millions of kids before I leave planet Earth.
Awesome. Wow. How do we top that, Aaron? I mean, come on. That's amazing. If someone was interested in learning more about opening a franchise, where would they go?
NationalAcademyOfAthletics.com is a great one. NA of a franchise, they can find us on Facebook, on LinkedIn, connect with me. By the way, even if you got questions or want to connect, let's chat. That's probably the best way to do it. I'm connecting with a lot of people. My inbox is flooding, which is great. I love it because one of the things that I do love to do every day is to just sit there and connect with people. And if you do send a message out, I promise I'll get back to you if I'm not on a flight within 24 hours. It's a guarantee. But nationalacademyofathletics.com, it kind of gives the whole story, the history, and you can find the franchising page and send some information. You get to talk to Kevin, which is a fun experience as well, because he's a great dude and you guys can have a good chat.
And it's not going to be forever that these new franchisees get you to fly out and help them. So it's a great reason for why someone should be a franchisee now.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate that. And I also know, not that, no sales pitch, but the reality is the locations that are kind of popping up that we're looking at as prime. Whew, man, those we're getting flooded with those. It's interesting. Most recently, since I started on the Daily Parks and Rec show, getting the information out there and things are really going for that. With the podcast, we're getting infiltrated with amazing people that are looking at, well, what about Dallas, what about? And we're like, let's talk.
Yeah.
That's how we got Denver. And now we've got another one coming from the Panhandle from Florida. So it's fun. It's a really fun time.
That's awesome. Congratulations again. Aaron, I got one last question for you. I finish every podcast with the franchise tip jar because, as you mentioned earlier, the franchise community is so generous. So I know there's other emerging founders out there listening, and I'd love for you to answer this. And that is, what advice would you give your past self the night before you became a franchisor?
Um, be patient because the process takes longer than you think, and give yourself a little grace. I'm not hard on myself, but I'm like, let's do this, right? And I will say, be patient because you don't control everything.
Right.
A lot of this is you turn it over to attorneys, you turn it over to experts, and it takes process time. So if you're out there thinking about creating a franchise, number one, make sure you didn't just do it once and you're okay at it. Make sure that you've tested it, pulled, and been really good at it. And once you've done that, then get the right professionals to help you to build the foundation so it's solid. Because you know as well as I do, whether you're building a house, wherever it is, you don't want it to teeter over.
Absolutely. All right, Aaron. Well, thank you so much for being on today's show. It was great catching up again with you, man.
Absolutely, man. I'm excited and can't wait to see you on our show and stay in touch with you. And by the way, your daughter's amazing. So tell her thanks so much. She got it dialed in the communication. Made it easy.
Absolutely. I love working together. So it's been a blessing.
Appreciate it. Be well.
Thank you.
Good luck out there, everybody. You're in the franchise space, man. Get in. Just make sure you got it together when you get there.
Absolutely. Thank you for tuning into the Emerging Franchise Brands podcast. For additional insights, guest applications, and to stay connected, visit us at efbpodcast.com. The Emerging Franchise Brands podcast is for entertainment purposes only, and the views expressed do not necessarily represent those of Emerging Franchise Brands, its host Frank Fiume, or Emerging Franchise Group LLC. Any discussed franchise or investment opportunity requires thorough investigation, obtaining proper disclosure documents, and expert consultation before making any investment decisions. The podcast and its host do not offer professional advice or endorsements, and they hold no responsibility for actions, representations, accuracy, or consequential damages related to the podcast content.